Good evening, y'all, and welcome back to the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show. Tonight, I have two of my friends from Kentucky on, Miss Marilyn and Barry Preston Robinson. They both are from Kentucky. They've had activity on their property for about 5 years. Now, Miss Marilyn, she some hobbies that she likes to do around the house. She likes to clean and walk and watch her hummingbirds, and she loves wildlife. And Barry loves to read, watch movies, and look for Bigfoot. And I actually got in touch with Barry on TikTok. His TikTok name is the Christian Bigfoot, correct, Barry?
Christian Squatcher.
The Christian Squatcher. See, I will slaughter an interview. And I found that really intriguing. And when you were out in the woods, I watched one of your videos you made, and we just started chatting. And your grandmother agreed to sit beside you. And you got some light in the background, so we can't see her face, but that's okay because we can hear her and she's comfortable. Um, let's start with your grandma, Miss Marilyn. What was it like growing up with in Kentucky?
Well, there was three of us kids, and I was the youngest of all three. Mom and Dad had two, a boy and a girl that was born 8 years before me. And Mom, they told her she would never be able to have no more kids, and they fixed her so she couldn't. And she got real sick, and they tried everything in the world to find out what was wrong with her and couldn't find anything. That doctor that done her operation said, "Well, you know what?" He said, "There's only one other possibility." And they said, "What's that?" He said, "She may be pregnant." Mom said, "I better not." He said, "Well, I think you are." So they run the test, and sure enough, I was a tube baby. And she had to go every 2 weeks, a little turn.
Well, you were a miracle, weren't you? I think we got a little bit of an internet freeze. We had that a little bit earlier. I'll give them a few moments. We had a little bit of this a few moments ago, and I think it's just the internet on both parts. So they'll jump back up in a moment, and we'll try to get them. I think we might have a little bit of an internet issue.
Yep. Seems like it always acts up when we're talking about this.
Yes, that's very strange. But she said she was a tube baby, didn't she?
Yeah.
Wow. So did you grow up in the house that you live in now?
No, but I growed up on the farm here where I lived then. The house that we lived in burnt when when I was about 8 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And Mom and Dad put a little trailer back there and built onto it. And then I got married the first time, and they decided we was all coming back to the farm, and that tickled me to death. I just tickled me to death. So we all come back. Mom and Dad wasn't satisfied coming back. They went back to town. And I said, "Y'all go back. I'm not going." And I stayed. And then I ended up divorced and everything. But I had two ponies when I was little, and I would ride them all over this countryside down there. I told somebody the other night, I said, "You wouldn't do that now." I wouldn't do
Yeah.
it. I wouldn't do it now. I mean, I used to ride for hours and hours and hours. I mean, But I wouldn't do it now because it ain't nothing but wilderness all the way around us, everywhere you look. It was like that when I was young, but I never paid no attention to it. But I know I told somebody the other day, I said, used to be, you didn't have to be afraid when you were out in the country to do things like that. But nowadays, the way things are, you have to be, I'd be afraid I'd run up on somebody wandering around down in there with no business down in there.
I understand that. I understand that. Now, Barry, have you been with your grandmother your whole life?
She's my mother. Yeah.
Your mother.
A real short stint for about a year and a half or two. I moved out and then moved right back in.
I'm glad you're there with her. That is the greatest love of all is, taking care of a parent or a child. And I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So you guys started having some activity on your property and you felt like that it was a Bigfoot. Can you tell me kind of how it started and what was going on?
The first thing I remember here at the house, we started what we called the thumps. And it happened at night. We'd hear something thump like it was hitting the roof or hitting the back of the house. And we got a big walnut tree in the back behind the house. And I kept telling myself it was walnuts falling out of the walnut tree hitting the house. But as it went on, it didn't make no sense because walnuts would fall all the time, day and night. They wouldn't just fall at night. And they wouldn't just fall every now and then. They'd fall all the time, every time the wind blew. Well, one night we got in bed and the house got hit and it literally sounded like a truck hit the house. It shook the house. I got up expecting to see a Ford sticking through the front end of the house. And we go out the next day and there's a big smear above the window, which is 11 foot off the ground. It looks like something just took its hand and smeared mud down the side of the house.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm looking at this and I was like, well, I can't blame it on walnuts anymore.
Can't. No, it didn't. When did it occur to you that it might be a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot?
We attended the CryptidCon in Frankfort, Kentucky about 5 years ago. And all the activity that we had around here, they described as being Bigfoot activity. I've had an interest in it since I was a kid, but I never thought about them being here in north central Kentucky until we went to CryptidCon. And there's researchers there from Kentucky talking about the same stuff that we had going on.
Now, how does Miss Marilyn feel about what went on that night with the smear on the windows?
I didn't know what to think. I thought, what in the world could get up that high and do that? I mean, I was surprised. I just couldn't believe it. He kept telling me, and I said, oh. And he said, Mom, I'm telling you, that's something big has hit the side of that house. And I had a friend that her and her parents seen Bigfoot.
Was that in the area?
Yeah, in this area. She got to tell me about that and how scared they was and what went on. And I thought, my Lord, I never dreamed anything like that was around here. And then he got going down in the fields and things, and he would tell me things when he was down in the fields and things, and we'd watch for things. And I'd help him look for footprints and all that. And then we went to Frankfurt that first time, and Cliff and Bobo was down there, and they got telling me things about them because I didn't know anything about them. They got talking about them, what they would do and how they would act, and I thought, we got some of that going on around my house, So we got to watch them more closely and listen more closely to what was going on.
Wow. So, Barry, what's some other things that's happened around the house?
Well, like she said, we had whistles, whoops. We found prints, stick structures. On TikTok, you saw the big X structure I found recently.
That was really big.
Well, full disclosure, recently I had some troubles. Mom was sick and I kind of broke down mentally. And I got diagnosed with anxiety, depression, bipolarism, and schizophrenia. So what I think I saw and what I actually saw may be two different things. I don't really know anymore. But I was out behind the house one afternoon walking around just the edge of the yard, not doing anything. And all of a sudden, off to my left, where the fence line follows the yard, I hear this, just a big loud, like an old man when he's disgusted with something, just hoof. And I whip my head around, and something brownish red, like an auburn or mahogany color, takes off crashing through the trees. And I'm looking, at first I think it's a deer huffing and a deer taking off down through there. Then I realize these flashes of brownish red I'm seeing are 8.5, 9 foot off the ground. And whatever it is just like a steamroller going down through there, through the underbrush and trees, just crashing through them. And it finally gets out of sight. And I'm standing there, I don't even have so much as a toothpick to defend myself with. Just thanking God it went the other way and not towards me. I'd never know what hit me.
Yeah, that would be pretty scary. And, you know, and let me say this, we all have our personal battles, and we all have things we have to work on and things we struggle with in life. As much as I've spoken with you, and, you know, even through our, you know, our text and everything, the one thing I am sure of is you got a lot of common sense and you love your mother. And if you got those two things going for you, you're all right in my book.
I appreciate that.
And you know, I'm always a phone call away. So I just want you to know that. So when you were in the field that day, do you think that it was just because at any time it could have come at you, but it chose not to? Did this happen in the daylight? Was it
It was right around dusk.
Right around dusk? Does most of the activity around your house happen around dusk?
Around dusk or at night or early in the morning.
What are some of the, I know you've had whistles. What are some of the other things? Because you've had it pretty much, it sounds like it charged at you, or it was clearing the brush to get away from you. Which one was it?
Well, I went down there a couple of days later after I summoned up the courage, and there was a trail going down through there where it broke up, just like I said, mowed over everything in its way. And like I said, the trees and stuff were snapped limbs and branches 8.5, 9 foot off the ground. A deer don't do that, even jumping. So.
And when we were talking, you said nothing had ever attacked the animals around your house or anything.
No.
No.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So do you think that something has been there way beyond 5 years, but you just kind of caught on to it for 5 years? Is there?
I think back, so.
Yeah. Is looking back.
She's told me about when she was a kid. Mm-hmm. If you put it in perspective, it sounds like you're talking more about a Bigfoot than a person. They had stuff happen. Well, my papa, on the farm they lived on before here, always saw a man walking on the ridge, and then the ridge is in the middle of nowhere. He saw this great big man walking across this ridge all the time, out in the middle of nowhere where no man would be walking. It's a great big man. So if it ain't a man, and he was half Apache, so he tracked and hunted and everything, and he knew his signs and all that.
And so with seeing it on the ridge, I imagine other things happened that your papa
you can tell you about that stuff.
Went
on back then.
Well, it's kind of part of what's, to me, it's kind of part of what's going on now with things. It could be the same one, or it could be generational Sasquatch or Bigfoot. I mean, I think it's important. Marilyn, you want to add to that, beautiful?
Well, I was little back then, but I mean, you know, when you see things moving, we had cattle. It was a dairy farm, and we go after the cows, and you'd see things moving through the bushes, and people talked about they saw things around there, like they say, well, we've seen bears and we've seen mountain lions and what have you, and it was kind of scary, really, because nobody really knew what they were, what was moving around. And they had done trapping, and it was a farm out here from us, right where I live now, where they lived in. Um, this guy had cattle out there, and Daddy went to this lake back there catching muskrats. And he come up a hill, and this guy was feeding his cattle. And he seen something black following Daddy up the hill.
Wow.
And he had a 30-30 in the truck. And when Daddy got up close enough, he told him, said, come on, get in the truck. And Daddy said, get in the truck. And he reached up behind the thing and got that 30-30 down. And he shot at it. He thought it was a panther. But now who knows? I mean, you know.
Wow.
Well, tell them the story about the hairy arm reaching in the bedroom window at one night. You told me it
Yeah.
half
That
a dozen
was down
times.
on the other farm, yeah. We was in bed and this arm come through the window in there and it was kind of furry like. I mean, it scared us kids. We thought it was a bear or something. We were screaming and hollering. Mom and Dad come running upstairs. And by the time they got up there, it was gone.
So you were upstairs?
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
You never told me the upstairs part.
Yeah, we went,
Most bears, even on their hind legs, can't reach upstairs, Mom.
No,
Most
That
bears
has
are
to-
7
would
foot at best.
that would have to be pretty scary.
I
Something that
was
can
little and my brother and sister was over. They seen it more than I did. But I remember,
Oh,
I remember screaming and hollering. Mom and Dad coming up there, and that's what they thought it was. Something up in the tree outside, right through the window. But I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
Oh, I believe you. I remember when I was a little girl, we lived out in the swamp, and our windows were about 7 or 8 feet off the ground because we in the swamp you build your houses up a little higher on the foundation. And my mama was getting ready for work one day, and we lived in the middle of nowhere, and you could leave your doors unlocked and your windows open. Didn't nobody mess with you. If they did, it would be the last time. Kind of like unwritten rule. And my mama started screaming. It was just before daybreak, and she said something walked up to that window, and the eyes were reflecting, and it was just looking at her. And I asked her. I remember it distinctly as a kid. I mean, she screamed, and I asked her about a year ago, and she don't remember. I said, "Mama, you woke the whole house up." But I totally get that. I really totally get that because we slept with our windows up, and to this day, I don't like to sleep with windows up. I
Oh,
don't.
you couldn't do that around here now. No, you couldn't leave the windows up. You couldn't leave the doors unlocked. You couldn't do that around here now. No.
Yeah.
Now my friend, they lived just right across the country from where we're at, and they seen this Bigfoot, and it was real funny. I had the night she was telling us. One day her mom smelled something in the bedroom. She thought the cat had got under the bed and made a mess. So she gets down on her hands and knees, is back under there looking behind the bed to see if a kitty cat got back there and made a mess. And she raised up, and it was Bigfoot standing looking in the window at her. And she laughed and told her, she said, that thing was looking in the window of my butt.
They say they like women now. They say they will be attracted to a house over the females. So I've heard that before.
When she told that, I like to cracked up, And her mom lived over there where they close to where she lives at now. And she mowed her yard, and she told us, she had Barry come over and look at footprints and things. She said when she would mow, there was something in the field down below where she was mowing. And she would mow one way, and it would move one way, and she would mow the other way, and it would go the other way. And she said, you talk about somebody putting that mower in high gear and getting that back there mowed, I got out of there. She said, I know what it was. But, but around here, I worked for 28 years, and I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and aimed to leave between 6 and a quarter after to go to work. I drove 38 miles one way. And I kept telling him, I said, I keep hearing something whistle. I said, of a morning before I go to work, I said, I keep hearing something down in there whistle. Well, I didn't think nothing about it. I don't guess he did either. And then when we went to that conference thing in Frankfurt, I said something about it. And Cliff and Bobo both started laughing. And I looked at them and they said, well, I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't a Bigfoot that knowed you was out there and was whistling at you.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea that they whistled like that.
Yes. And they say they sound like owls, too.
Well, really?
I've heard what sounds more like a dove. Only
Dove, like
if it's a dove, it's a 60-pound dove and it's in my pocket. It sounds that big.
Wow.
Instead of the real soft woo, 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 woo.
That
I've
comes
been out in the woods and had that follow me.
Well, tell us about that. I'm sorry, my cat Swamp Kitty's trying to steal the show.
I've just been out in the woods and, like I said, be going along, and suddenly I hear this dove cooing. Only the dove, like I said, sounds like it weighs 60 pounds and it's in my pocket with me.
So you could feel it. You could feel the sound.
Yeah.
You feel like it was trailing you?
Yeah, like it was escorting me or following me or just watching me. It could have been staying in one spot and watching me. And as loud as it was just loud enough that I thought it was following me.
I bet that was pretty scary.
I guess I'm not smart. I'm not smart enough to be scared. When I go out researching, I don't take anything with me but my faith. I depend on my faith to bring me back in one piece.
Swamp Kitty wants to say hello to you. There you go. She said hello. So when you said you just take your faith with you. Well, I agree. I've heard a lot of people to say when they've seen one, they've called in the name of Jesus and it turned around and disappeared. I've heard that. What is
threatened by them?
I was going to ask you, what is your sense about them? Do you sense like when they're around, do you get a bad feeling or do you have a neutral feeling or do you feel like they're just trying to live and
just natural?
What do you think they are?
Well, I looked to the Bible for all my answers, and Esau was a hairy man born covered in red hair from head to toe, and he married a half giant from Canaan, half giant woman, and they went to living in caves and they called them troglodytes, and they said that they were faster than the fastest horses and ate lizards and lived in caves. So if you take a half giant woman and a man is covered in red fur, imagine what kind of kids they're going to have, or grandkids or great grandkids, what they would look like.
Have hairy man kids that were really fast running across ridges.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I think descendants of Esau or troglodytes, biblically descendant.
Now, has that always been your opinion, or is when you study your Bible and you're outside actively researching, is that a conclusion you come to over time?
That's pretty much always. When I finally started researching for myself, that's what I pretty much went to first thing. Like I said, I go to the Bible for answers to everything.
So you've had activity around your house that you've been aware of for 5 years. What is the typical day like when you have activity? How does the typical day start out when it's active?
Most days it's just tree knocks or whoops out in the distance. Nothing real serious. Every now and then you'll find a print in the yard from the night before, print or two. Nothing real serious.
Can you describe the prints?
5-toed. I put some of those on TikTok as well. Mm-hmm. Some of the ones I found recent. 5-toed. Pretty much humanoid, just big, 18 inches or better, 22, 24 inches. I've even nicknamed one of them Big Chief.
Big Chief? How did you get that name?
Well, along with the biblical thing, out of the Native American connection to them. The Native Americans, like I said, my papa was half Apache, and the Apache and every other tribe had some kind of story about Sasquatch or Bigfoot or giants or something. So I took the name Big Chief from them. Because like you, I kind of think he's been around longer than we realize. probably been watching us live here for decades, maybe generations.
Probably knows more about your habits and your daily routine than you do.
Yep.
Miss Marilyn, how do you feel knowing they're on the property?
I just don't give it a thought. I mean, I just kind of depend on the Lord to take care of us and know that He will. I'll tell you what happened to me, though, and him and everybody in the country must have got a good laugh out of this. I come in one night from work and went to the mailbox. And I just happened to look up the road, and the neighbor boy was coming around the curve up there. And I seen something about 3 foot tall cross the road in front of him on 2 back feet. Well, I thought it was a coon. I never give it no thought. I watched it and kind of waited till he got closer and waved at him and what have you. And Barry come in. I said, "You know, that's the biggest coon I ever seen." He said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Well, I was at the mailbox," and I said, "Eddie Ray coming around the corner up there in his truck," and I said, "This thing crossed the road in front of him, walking on 2 back feet, about 3 foot tall." I said, "I took it to be a coon," and he started laughing. And I said, "What's so funny?" He said, "Mom, I don't think a coon gets that big."
Yeah, there's not too many 3 foot tall coons running around.
And I said, "Well, what could it be?" And he said, "Well, it might have been a bear, and then it might have been a small Bigfoot, too." And I said, "Huh?"
I honestly believe it was a juvenile.
And I said,
Big little
"Are
baby.
you kidding me?" He said, "No, Mom, I'm not kidding." And I was shocked to death. I mean, I never give it a thought. I just seen it go across the road on 2 back feet. You know, I mean, that's the only thing I've ever said. I said, if I walked up on one, I'd be saying, "Please, Mr. Bigfoot, give me a head start, because I ain't but 4'11".
Oh, bless your heart. 4'11".
Yeah.
Well,
So
you are a spunky 4'11". I promise you that.
I would say, "Give me a head start," and I'd run as fast as my little legs would carry me.
Bless your heart. Let me set Swamp Kitty down. She's starting to take over the show. All right, you sit down, little girl. I'm sorry. Every once in a while, she just gravitates to.
Our baby's asleep.
Tell me about your baby.
His name's Bo Sivas. He's a pure red bloodhound.
Yeah, I had a bloodhound named Jeb, and they are the most loyal dogs.
Yep.
And Jeb did not like dogs. He loved cats, and he liked most people. But if he did not like you, he did not like you. There was
I was the same way.
Yeah.
there was no in between. He was either a lap dog slobbering all over you, or he was coming through the door to get you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had one encounter with him. I was walking him, and something from the tree line started whistling, just like you would call a dog. Just like calling a dog from the tree line, whistling. Wow. I had Poseidus on a leash to keep him from going to it. And I took him back and put him up. When I went back, there was no whistling. So I don't think it was a bird or anything like that. It was still been whistling when I was out there by myself.
How did Bocephus act toward it?
He was ready to. He's like me. He don't know when. He ain't got no backup in him. He was ready to get it.
I think that's the country in you.
Yeah.
Well, and have you ever seen a lot of tree breaks, or maybe glyphs on the ground, or large rocks moved, or anything like that?
I've seen a few trees bent over and pinned down and to form arches. And most usually when I find those, they're pointing to water. We've got a water break nearby and a little small pond that only holds about 2 foot of water. And usually when I find those tree bends, they're pointed to one or the other.
You said they were braced down. Is that what I heard you by the bottom?
Pinned down. It'll hold to actually have a root or something with the top of the tree shoved under the root where it's holding it down in position. So can't be natural. The tree didn't fall like that with its tip perfectly underneath the root.
Wow.
I've seen trees twisted, seen the bark stripped off of them.
So, how close is the closest neighbor with you guys?
Oh, we got neighbors right across the street and right out the road. We're just non-believers.
They're non-believers.
They kind of got their heads in the sand about it all.
Well, I met a gentleman this year or this month, and for 62 years he was a non-believer. And I think it was June or July of 2024, he became a believer. And he used to tell people, no, you're seeing a bear. No, you're seeing a bear. That was a bear. He does not say that anymore.
Yep.
And so sometimes life has a way of kind of waking people up a little bit. We'll hope that it's in a good way. I was going to ask.
I'll say this for one of them. He did warn me about going down in a particular holler. He's like, you know that one holler where you think you hear strange sounds and you think you see something moving out of the corner of your eye? I'd be careful about going down in there. And this is a guy that don't believe in nothing. So
Sounds like he kind of had an experience down there, yeah?
something.
Something he's not telling you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a lot of people that have experiences don't come out with them and confide in people about them because of the ridicule they get. So maybe he's one of those people.
Yeah.
Now, when hunting season comes around, do you have an uptick in activity, or does it change?
Not really. Doesn't seem like. We've got a couple big time hunters around here, but it doesn't really seem to affect them. Now, sometimes we do have dead periods where we don't have any activity at all. I don't know if they migrate, maybe follow the food, or
Is that during the wintertime, summertime, springtime?
seems like it's during the winter and the spring.
Why do you think they hit your house?
That goes back to the Native Americans used to have a thing called count and coup, where they'd see how close they could get to somebody without touching them. There may be some kind of juvenile trial, some rite of passage. Hey, can you go up there and smack the house without them seeing you?
I have never heard it put that way. Very impressive.
That goes back to the Native American. They called it count and coup.
That's something Papa taught you?
That or I read it somewhere, one of the two.
Okay. So living on the land, you said they don't bother your animals. Your house has been hit. You've heard whistling, cooing. Have you ever found anything that looked like a nest, a nesting area?
Yeah. We
Can you tell
found
us?
large areas smashed down like something had been laying on it. Found some up in trees. Looked like branches had been weaved together and made like branches or even like a hammock almost. Found a couple that looked almost like a blind.
Wow.
Found one that I called the murder chute, and it was a series of trees. There was 3 ways into it, or something like a deer could run through it, but only one way out. And over top of each of them, there was a tree, like there was 2 trees this way, and then 1 tree this way. So if you got the deers in there and knocked that log that was this way down behind them, you'd have them trapped, and the only way out would be that one chute. So if you're a Sasquatch and you're standing over that one way out, that deer is a sitting duck. And that was one of the times it got kind of creepy, because that's what made me stop and say, well, just how smart are these things?
That is intelligence. Because you said you got 3 ways to come in, almost like an arrow, right?
Yeah.
Wow. How close was that to your home?
Probably 200 or 300 yards.
Wow.
We only own 7 acres.
7 acres is enough. Most
Yeah.
people dream of having that. It's a little piece of paradise.
I tell people they don't know how big 7 acres is till you hike it.
Especially when it's 90 degrees out there and 80% humidity.
Yep.
So you found nesting sites, and you found what I call a kill chute. You call it a murder shoot, I think.
Murder shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever find any type of carcasses around where it looks like the legs have been broke or the necks have been twisted?
We never found anything like that, but like during the dead periods I was talking about, you don't even find roadkill. It's like every bit of wildlife disappears from this area completely. And that's
Wow.
when the activity dies down to nothing.
And you said that was usually during the spring and the
Spring and fall.
spring and for a while. Get off the couch for a second. Cat was on the table. He's coming in. But yeah. Well, that sounds really interesting. So, how often do you go out when you actually get the search around the house?
I try to do at least once a week. I don't always make it once a week, but I got trail cams I like to put out, and I've gotten partial pictures on them of fur. Looks like an arm or a leg. And just long hair in front of them and stuff. And then the hundreds of them where they go off where there's no reason for them to go off. And one of my buddies is a fellow researcher, Wendell Burroughs from Arkansas, said what it is they're sitting back throwing pebbles or something to set the truck camera off without getting close enough to it to get a picture of them.
Wendell is a very good man. I really like Wendell. He was actually on the show. I really enjoy it. He's had some pretty hairy moments.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
He was another one that helped me come to the conclusion about Isu and the half giant wife and all that.
He is a very I waited that out. Don't worry about it. So Wendell was telling me that he's had some pretty aggressive encounters, that they actually surrounded him on a mountain one time, and that was pretty. It was pretty powerful listening to what he had to say. But I talked to you guys, and you guys seem to have a totally different behavior from him.
I think it's just like people. There's good and bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look in the Bible, a lot of the tribes were evil. But that don't mean their great grandkids are going to be evil. However, generations we are.
Do you think it's regional?
It could be.
Well, I think of all the people out there, Wendell is probably one of the best people you can talk to.
Mm-hmm.
I really have a lot of confidence and faith in him, and he by far was probably one of my. I learned a lot from him, and he is someone. If you have a question, you can shoot it over to him. If he knows the answer, he'll answer it. And if he doesn't pretend like he does. But he's had some pretty hairy situations out where he's at in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So when you think about what Wendell tells you, and then you go out in the woods, because I heard you pray when you go out, and you prayed for you and your dog and, Marilyn, and before you started your, research that day. Is there ever a time when you go out on your property and you just feel like you need to turn around and come back? You just get a bad feeling?
I had one time, and I've never even told Mom about this. I got out and I started back. And without realizing it, I walked probably a quarter to half a mile in the wrong direction.
Wow.
And I've always wondered if I got hit with infrasound.
And you were in an area that you were very familiar with.
Yeah, I was on my own property.
Wow.
I hiked up a hillside at the top of a ridge looked around and realized I was headed away from the house instead of towards it.
How long does that affect you when you feel like you've been hit with infrared or infrasound?
I don't know if it was that or if I got overheated or something, but as soon as I realized what I was doing, I turned around and walked back the direction I came, back towards the house.
Well, what I like is you don't make assumptions. You try to look at it rationally,
Yeah.
but you also are open-minded where you can also go down that avenue, and if that's possibly what it was, you can explore that too. And I really like that about you.
Yeah.
Have you or Miss Marilyn ever had any gifts left or anything you felt like was left on the property for you?
No, I don't think so. I know one time I was doing dishes and I seen something kind of a brown and red, pretty good size, goes down through the wilderness out here below the house, but I didn't know what it was.
Wow. So you got they're comfortable on your property.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some turkey feathers and white feathers left, a few odd-shaped rocks.
Really?
I've had two. Talk to Mom for a second. I'll go get the best two gifts I've got. The best
Sure
two things
will.
I found, I can show them to you.
All right.
Take me a
Miss
second.
Miss Marilyn, what was it like growing up on the farm? I know you worked hard, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, somebody was talking the other day about the heat. And I said, you better be glad you didn't live back when I was growing up. They kind of looked at me weird. I said, when we was growing up and it was hot like this, I said, we were in the hayfield. I said, and back then they didn't have tractors and builders and all that. They took and cut it down and put it in haystacks, took pitchforks and pitched it up on a wagon.
Miss
And
Marilyn, go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead and finish.
and he'd throw it up on them wagons and them big old black snakes come rolling down there.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah. Miss Marilyn, let me ask you a question before I look at his feathers. You've been around for a long time. What changes have you seen in the world that you thought you would never see?
Oh, I guess most is the way people are and the computers and all that stuff. That's just beyond my understanding.
You,
I worked 38 years for a company. Never used a computer in the 38 years. Used a pen and pencil. And I worked with the FBI. I worked with sheriff department and city police. Whatever company we worked murders. We worked stolen cars. I mean, and then I go around now and see these people and all this stuff with these computers and everything. And I think I'm glad they didn't have them back when I was working.
wow, what kind of work did you do, Miss Marilyn?
I was a dispatcher for a towing company.
Wow. Wow. You know what? One day I would love to have you on the show and just do a show about your life.
That'd be fine. It'd
I'd
be
love
fine.
it. Barry, let me see what you have.
All right. The first one, I was walking down a field. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this.
That's it.
That is a cork baseball. Cork baseballs, they quit using them in the 30s, maybe early 40s.
Wow.
And it was laid right in the middle of a path where I couldn't miss it. A path that I'd walked down before, it wasn't there. That baseball's literally older than I am.
And it was just laying out on top of nothing over it
Laying in the middle of the path.
for
Like
you to
somebody
find it.
rolled it out there for me to find.
That's incredible. Did you tell Wendell about that one?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if he remembers it or not. And this here, you can't hardly tell probably what it is either.
Is it a bow or a helmet?
It's a helmet. It's an Army helmet from either World War II or the Korean War. And the same thing, I found it just sitting in an area I've walked past 100 times, turned over like that. I thought it was a turtle when I first saw it. And then when I realized what it was, I was so worried about it, I got a stick and flipped it over before I picked it up because I thought it was booby trapped.
That's incredible.
But those two things, I honestly believe, the feathers and stuff I can explain. I mean, feathers are feathers, they fall. But these two things here just come out of nowhere.
Wow. That helmet and the baseball is that's history in your hands.
Yeah.
Wow. That is incredible.
And there's
Those
no
are
reason for either one of them to be out there.
that is incredible. So what would you tell someone that is a non-believer if they would be open-minded and sit down and talk to you?
You want to go first?
Well, I've kind of went through that, I think, more or less with my whole family. They think I lost my mind.
Haven't
And
we
we go
all?
talking about Bigfoot, and my brother-in-law gets a big kick out of it. Well, I work for him, and I bought the boy that worked with me when I got ready for Christmas. They didn't have anything around here for me to get buried anything with Bigfoot to it. And they'd help me pick out stuff and help me order it and have it delivered over there where we worked. And my brother-in-law, he just laughed when he sees something and he'd say, I think I seen Bigfoot last night, or I think I saw something about Bigfoot on TV. And I mean, he wrote me a whole lot, and they all picked on me where I worked at about Bigfoot because of her. And then we had this one driver that went down south towards Tennessee in the big record, and he come back and he said, "You got to take Barry down there." Well, I said, "For what?" He said, "I saw Bigfoot standing on a hill down there." He said, "You go down through there, I bet you all see it too." And he said, "I tried to get a picture of it." He said, "I was going to bring it back to you." So, I mean, my family didn't really believe in them, but they kind of got a kick out of picking on them bird because we believed in them. And also, I don't think the people at church really liked it because we believed in them. I don't think they really wanted us to do that. But I said, well, everybody's got a hobby or something they like to do. And I said, it's just kind of a hobby with us. I said, and finally I told them, I said, well, they may be real, they may not. But I said, there's one thing about it. They looked at me and I said, I don't want to run up on one and not know he's there and turn around and have to take my chances. you know. And I don't, I mean, but that was pretty hard. I still don't think that my sister and brother-in-law and all of them really think that they're real. I don't think they do. But they still pick on us about them. In
Yeah,
fact, she called tonight and was telling us to watch that show on TV about Bigfoot. And she said, tell Bert if it gets too scary to turn it off so he won't stay awake all night. And I said, well, you can watch that. She said, I don't think so.
well,
I know why she don't think so.
I know a lot of people that have very distinguished backgrounds and political seats in office that have seen Bigfoot. But I will say this, and I'm a Christian, but Christians can be very judgmental sometimes. And I think that sometimes as Christians, and I've been guilty of it. I'm guilty of falling short every day. I think Christians can be very judgmental sometimes, and there is nothing wrong with believing in Bigfoot. Tell people, not just Christians, because like I said, I'm Christians, but you tell people to prove they don't exist. That's what I would say. You agree?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Barry, what would you tell someone that doesn't believe in Bigfoot but would be open-minded enough to listen?
I'd tell them to go out in the woods with me for a day. I can take them from being a believer to a knower.
A believer to a knower. You said that with a lot of confidence, so I believe you. I really do believe you. So we've been going on for almost an hour. Is there anything you guys want to touch on that you haven't touched on yet?
Not that I can think of, not really.
I really have enjoyed you and you both, and it's really warmed my heart speaking to both of you. Now, at the end of each show that I have, I always let people pay tribute to someone, and I would like to give you and Miss Marilyn an opportunity to pay tribute to someone you would like to. But I would like to say this before I do that. I have really enjoyed talking to you, and I do consider you part of the Not So Bigfoot show family. I almost couldn't say my own show. And I want you to reach out to me anytime you want to. And maybe I can talk to Wendell and have him come on the show where you can ask him, you guys can just talk about what's going on, and he can share his new experiences and you can share your new experiences, and we'll just, have a show where you can talk back and forth, and he might can educate me a little bit more. And I want you and Miss Marilyn to know if you ever need anything, reach out to me and please stay in touch.
Okay.
Okay, so do you guys know I'm going to give you the full screen. Do you guys know who you would like to pay tribute to?
I know who I want to. You want?
I want to pay.
Go ahead.
I want to pay tribute to the Lord because I went to my kidney doctor yesterday after 2 years of worrying about my kidneys after they had shut down on me. And I went yesterday to the kidney doctor, and they're doing a whole lot better. And I know why, because the Lord has touched me.
You finished?
Mhm.
I want to pay tribute to Jesus too, but especially I want to pay tribute to my papa because he's up there somewhere looking down at me, and I'm making him proud. Because I always said he was the second greatest man to ever walk the earth, right behind Jesus. I miss him and I love him. So I'm doing it for Papa.
Well, I think that was very heartfelt, and I know he would be proud of you. And Miss Marilyn, I'm glad your kidneys are doing better, and I'm going to keep you both in my prayers. And I would like maybe down the road, if you guys will come on and do a follow-up with us.
All right.
All right.
I have really enjoyed it, and I'm glad you took me up on coming on the show because I think you both are precious, and family matters, and you guys have each other, and I wish that the world had the bond you guys have, and I think it's wonderful, and I think that's a rare gift these days, and I'd like to thank you for coming on the show.
Well, we'd like to thank you for asking us, and we appreciate you asking us. And we want you to know we think a lot of you. We enjoy doing the show with you.
Well, thank you, Miss Marilyn. I'll have you back on the show, I promise, and I promise to stay in touch, and you just stay beautiful.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Barry.
Bye-bye.